Welcome to Amy's Crafts and Things. I'm Amy. In today's tutorial for PE Design 11 and Palette 11, I'm going to show you how to do a double applique for letters. I'm going to go ahead and go to my Home tab and go to Text and choose the letter A on the left. And in all caps, I'm just going to type my name. And then I'm going to enlarge it some. From here, I will go to the Home tab. With my name selected, I will click on Applique Wizard. I will check Yes for applique material. For tack down, I'm going to click No. For the covering stitch, you can choose any of those four. And then for the output pattern, I'm going to hit Replace. And when I hit Replace, I want to make sure in the lower left-hand corner I get Create Applique with Hole Sewing. It's very important that you check that. That will create the hole sewing for letters such as A and D and P, wherever there's a hole in the letter. So I will click OK, and there's the applique for my name. If you look in the sewing order, there's 3 versions of my name stacked on top of each other. For the sake of simplicity, we're going to go ahead and change some colors. So for the first 3 parts of my name, we're going to change all of those to black. That's just my placement stitching. For the next 4 parts of my name, so it will be the inside and the tack down of the A. So those 2 parts we're going to change to red. And then the next 2 parts of the A will change to green, because those will be the sew down, the satin stitching around the A. So let's change those to green. And then we need to do the rest with the other letters. So we'll do the M was red. This M was green. The Y was red. Now, since we have all these colors just in a wonderful confusing stitch out, we're going to go ahead and select these all. And we'll go to the Optimize Sewing Order to group all of the light colors together. We have now the black is your outline, the red is your tack down, and your green is your satin stitch. So now they're all in order. From here, we're going to go ahead and click Select All. And then we will go back up to the Applique Wizard. And this time we're going to make sure we keep the applique material is Yes. The tack down, we are going to keep it as No. You can choose Yes if you'd like, if you want a different function. Well, let's go ahead and do that. So we'll click Yes. And then we have our covering stitch and our output. This time we're going to replace, and you're going to choose the distance from the inner letter to the outer border. And that's done in millimeters. I'm going to just keep it at 3.5, and I'll click OK. And that puts it around your name. Okay. So then if you scroll in your sewing order all the way down, all the way down to the bottom, you'll see that you have your placement, your tack down, your covering stitch, and your zigzag. The reason why I did this was I'm going to take my covering stitch and I'm going to change it to a motif stitch. And we'll put a motif around it. If I go into sewing attributes here, I can change the one that I just created. That must be really tiny. Let's go ahead and maintain aspect ratio, and we're going to go ahead and enlarge it. Here it comes, it's coming in on the inside, so I want to make sure that I put it to the outside so that I can enlarge it a little bit further. It just gives it something different. And that's something that you can go ahead and play around with. If you don't want to add like a motif stitch around, you can just go ahead and select that covering stitch and you can just delete it. So then we'll scroll back down in the sewing order and we will change. So we're going to change this to a different color. Let's go ahead and change that to purple. That is your placement. Here is your tack down. We'll change that to, I don't know, a dark pink. And then the satin stitch here, we'll go ahead and change that as well to maybe a gray. Okay. And then you can go ahead, and because it's a double layer applique, you're going to want this to stitch out first. So we're going to go ahead and select the last 3 there, right click, and click on sew first. That will move it to the top in the sewing order. And if we scroll up, we can see that it's there. So that's one way you can do it. Let's go ahead and delete. Now we'll do method 2 and we'll go click on the text and we will type my name again. The process will be the same, except this time let's go ahead and enlarge it some. It might be a little big, what I'm trying to do. And then we're going to go ahead and go to character spacing, and we're going to space out each letter considerably. Maybe even just a little bit more. And then with it selected, we can go to the Home tab, and we can click on Applique Wizard, and it's the same process. Here we're going to click No on the tack down. Keep everything else the same, and we're going to click on Replace and click OK. I forgot to click on Hold Sewing. That's what will happen. If we don't click it, you don't get the cut up for the A. So let's go back to Applique Wizard and check the Create an Applique with Hold Sewing and click OK. Now we have our applique. From here, we're going to go back up to the Applique Wizard, and this time I know that I don't want to have a fancy stitch built into my design, so I will click No on the tack down. And I will click on Replace, and I will click OK. And now, as you can see, each letter is done individually. In order for that to happen, you have to make sure your first group of letters are spaced out enough so that they don't merge together. Okay, and then the process is still the same. The first 2 letters of your A need to be changed to one color. The M and the Y on the placement will have to be changed as well. I'll just run through this real quick. Here's part of the A, here's part of the A. That will be red because that's going to be our tack down. And this part of the A and this part of the A will be the satin stitching. So we'll change that to a different color so you get the idea here, right? So we'll go back and change all the colors, and then we'll go ahead and select all. And we'll optimize the sewing order. And we want to scroll all the way down to the last set because each letter is done individually. We have to click on all 9 parts. We're going to right click and sew those first because it's the applique that lays down first and then the top letter of the appliques. So that's another way. So each letter is done individually. I'll go ahead and remove this from our screen. Another thing that you could do is you can click our text and just go ahead and type path. I'm going to just go ahead and enlarge this just a little bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and go into the Shapes tool, and I'll grab a shape, and I'm going to make it so the letters follow a path. Okay, let's go ahead and make that a running stitch, and I don't need a fill stitch. This is just temporary. We're going to go ahead and select our 2, and then we're going to go up into the Home tab over Fit Text, click on the drop down arrow, Fit Text to Outline, and it will give you another pop-up box right here, and it will ask you a series of how do you want it to appear on the line. So we're going to go ahead and click OK there, and it will move it to the oval. But I don't want the oval to be sewn, so we will go ahead and click on the oval, and I will go up to the Sew portion of the Shapes tab, click on the drop down arrow, and choose Not Sewn Line, so it will not sew that line. The dotted line is there to show you the placement of that line, but it is not going to sew. If you look in your sewing order, it's not even there. So with your word path, let's go ahead and select that. And then you would go ahead and start the whole process over again by selecting your words, your letters that you're going to create into a double applique, and click on your applique wizard and do the whole process all over again. And those are 3 different ways on how to do a double applique that you can use for patches or just for applique on shirts. And one more thing I would like to point out in doing the double applique patches or appliques themselves. Go ahead. Let's just go ahead and type Amy again. Let's restore our default for our character spacing. And you can do that by clicking in your text attributes, character spacing, and the home button will bring you back to your default, which is 0. So we'll go ahead and enlarge this. And with it selected, we'll go to the Home tab and we will go to Embroidered Patch. And we will do no satin stitching for this one, and we will do a running stitch. The cutting is for multi-needle machines that have the ability to use a special kit that will cut the fabric. I do not have that, and it's only for multi-needle, so I will just do a running stitch. And it asks for the distance from the original pattern. Let's change that to 5.0 and click OK. And then it will just go around your name. So that's not really, your letters aren't an applique per se. You have to go in and manually adjust everything. So in order to make it work, you would click on all 3 letters, and then you would click Home, make sure they're selected, and then you would copy and paste again, and then you have to go in and change everything. So the first set of Amy, you would change to the running stitch, and you would remove the satin stitch. Right? Yes, it gives you more control. Yes, it's a little bit more time consuming, and I'll show you why. So the first one was our outline, our placement. So we will move those first. The second set of Amy, will be our tack down. So we will select those objects. We will change that also to a running stitch and a not sewn region. Okay. And then we will change that color to red for our tack down. And then the last set of Amy, we will right click, select those objects, and that will be a set. Keep that as a zigzag, which is a satin for the outside, and the fill stitch, the region stitch, we will change to not sewn. So now you're getting your double applique, but I don't like how this is, and this is what I mean by this is the manual way. There's a lot of steps into this, but I don't like how that looks, and it's much easier to edit this portion of your double applique. You go into select point tool, and then we can go ahead and zoom in here just a little bit. And I will click on the outline, and then I will draw a box around some of the nodes that I would like to remove, and click on delete, and it will delete the ones that I don't like. And then you can go ahead and play around with any other point that you don't like. So this is where you would get choosy on where you would like, how you would like your bottom layer of your double applique to look. So let's go back and click on our select tool, and now we have our outline. So we will call that one our placement. So let's change that to a different color. Normally we've been doing black, but because of how this is all working out here, we are going to choose shapes. I'll just make it a dark gray. And then I'm going to, with it selected, go home, copy, paste for a tack down, and paste again for the final satin. So let's scroll down in the sewing order, click on Amy, change that to a different color, and we will go ahead and click on the last one, choose that as a different color as well, and make that one your zigzag or your satin stitch, and you can adjust your parameters in these sewing attributes for your satin stitching. Okay, and then we need to make sure we move the correct pieces to the top, so we will go ahead on the bottom, the purple satin outline, we will go ahead and sew first. We're going to restack this, and then the green one at the bottom, we will right click on it, sew first, and the dark gray one we will right click and sew first. Okay, so then as you can see, we will have the outline, placement, the tack down, and the final satin stitch for the first layer, and then the same with Amy. So that's how you would do it if you feel like you have to manually adjust how it sews around the letters. So there are two different methods there illustrating how to do a double applique for shirts or for patches. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to be notified when future tutorials are posted. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions on a tutorial you would like to see, please leave it in the comments below and we will work together to make that happen. Thank you for watching.